Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Sam Celaya, founder and CEO of InstantHandz. We also have Adam Evans, Chief Strategy Officer with InstantHandz. Gentlemen, it's great to see you. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Hi, Jill.
Thank you so much, Jill.
You got it. And let's talk about the gig economy and some of the history behind it. The audience may be surprised to learn it goes well back, even before the Great Depression. Give us some examples.
Correct, Jill. Just to start off with that, the term gig economy was coined in 2009. Gig workers aren't new. They go back well before the Great Depression. The gig economy has been around for a while. It's become more widespread during and after the Great Recession of 2008. As you started to see more apps come around, but you can go as far back as 1915, where jazz musicians used the term gig for jobs, but it was really confirmed in around 1905 is when it really tracks back. Fast forward, 1940, World War II prompts the opening of the first companies promoting gig type work, offering temporary labor business jobs needing to fill a workforce. Fast forward a little bit more, in 1995, Craigslist introduced, providing local based jobs, online gig work in the San Francisco area. And then fast forward to between 2008, 2013, companies in like Uber and Lyft came to life.
It's so interesting when you put it into that perspective, just how long it really has been around. We seem to forget about Craigslist, which really wasn't that long ago. So how many workers make up the gig economy? How large is it expected to get?
I'll take that one. In 1995, kind of going back to what Sam just said, 1995, it was about 10% of Americans were involved in some kind of gig economy task or job. Right now in 2021, we're looking at about 1 in 3 Americans are utilizing a side gig or a gig economy type job as part of their everyday life. And that number is only expected to grow here as we recover from 2020.
And that's a perfect segue for my next question. What was the impact of the COVID-19 to the gig economy?
I think with COVID, you saw 2 impacts. You saw, the bad and the good. Some gig tech companies had to close their doors. Typically they were companies that may have had a lot of investment at that time, were not generating enough revenue, so they had upside down balance sheets and they struggled to move forward. Whereas others saw it as an opportunity. We saw it within the food delivery apps, which was tremendous. Prior to COVID, the gig space, gig economy was growing. And again, what we're seeing is that resurgence happening once again. We're not completely out of the clear of COVID, but we're starting to see quite a bit of demand coming back into this space.
And that's my question to you. Do you think the gig economy is something that's here to stay? And then to follow on to that, are governments, are companies doing enough to support gig workers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, I believe the gig economy is here to stay. We're seeing many indicators of this right now, especially in the investment space. Large valuations for large private companies. Within post-COVID, we're seeing that demand, the increase of demand. Companies and government will need to pass new laws and regulations that can help protect gig workers and organizations alike. I think there's a balance that truly needs to be met. We've seen it with worker classification laws in California. We see the same thing happening in Massachusetts. Uber and Lyft put $200 million into a ballot initiative exempting them from the AB5 legislation that was passed in California. We're starting to hear the same buzz happening in Massachusetts as well.
So let's talk about InstantHandz. Where do you fit in the gig economy?
Well, InstantHandz fits in directly tied to the home services space. So just like other gig types, our space has been around for a while. The gig space and market have been around for years. For us, it's just been called the military side hustle. We created a technology that connects military families with the community to earn extra income in and out of their neighborhoods. Our providers of network providers are unique. You know, the qualifications to be an InstantHandz provider are very similar to the USAA model. U.S. military, their spouses and their children come on board as providers to do work within their community. And it's not limited just to military that they're doing work for. It is attached to anybody in their community. Any one of their neighbors is who they attach to. As far as the industry itself, the home services space is gigantic. It's a $500 billion space right now with over 700 million projects done yearly. It is quite large. There are some players in the space. What's interesting about this space is we're at the point where there's so much demand that the incumbent brands right now in the space, there's not a dominant incumbent brand out there right now. So, you know, we're at the point, I believe, in 2008 or maybe 2013, where the Ubers and the Lyfts of the world where the space is actually looking for a dominant brand or brands to float to the top of the space.
And Adam, as we know, there is a labor shortage and there's so much demand for things that need to be done around the house. I can attest to that. But I also think what you're doing, working specifically with military family members, they do in fact serve in communities that are a little bit above, what their salary is commensurate of. So to be able to provide them with these kinds of jobs on a flexible schedule where they can work based on what their military duties require, it just seems like a great fit.
Absolutely. You know, we see that a lot with military spouses in particular. COVID hit pretty hard for military families. Military spouses were staying at home with the children, became instant overnight homeschool, teachers. So for the military economy that's constantly moving and changing, this is a fantastic transportable way to at least provide a little bit more financial security by doing things that you're proud of doing for your neighbors and earning a little extra financial security for your families.
All right, Sam, Adam, thank you so much for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you.